Welcome to the Grift. We're going to talk some shit.
You're goddamn right.
Fuck you.
The easier it is to sell souls.
There is a new price on freedom, so buy into it while supplies last. Changes need to be made. No more curbside baggage. 7 p.m. curfew. Racial profiling will continue with less bitching. We've unified over who to kill, so until I find more relevant scripture to quote, remember, our God is bigger, stronger, smarter, and much wealthier. So wave those flags with pride, especially the white part.
We're selling addictive 24-hour candlelight vigils in TVs. Freedom will be defended at the cost of civil liberties. The viewers are glued to television screens, stuck, cause lots of things seem too sick. I use opportunities to pluck heartstrings for theme music. I show you which culture to pump your fist at, which foot is right.
All right. Welcome to the Grift. I'm Reverend Al.
I'm here with Gonzo.
Excellent. We're going to talk news, politics, culture, and some bullshit. What do we got?
All right, let's start with the news. All right, what happened this week?
As always, so much. So much.
Every week is a decade anymore, and I don't feel like that's going to stop anytime soon. Oh boy, 2025 is going to be fun. 2025 is going to be a hoot.
You know, 2030.
Goddamn hoot.
2030, when we're scrounging around hunting rats for food.
There's
and,
no 2030.
Yeah, I mean, we won't have anybody that can count left by then. But in 2030, when we're all scrounging for rats,
Right. In the wastelands.
we're going to be thinking about how exciting these days and times were, the before times.
We'll pine. We'll pine for 2024.
Yeah.
Like I saw a meme the other day. It was like posted at the end of 2019 about it being the worst year ever.
Yeah.
Every year,
I
repost that meme.
I
The
was
same day every year.
I was such a Pollyanna that year, and it was 2019 was a bad year.
2019 was a bad year.
Yeah. I was I got separated that year, end of that year.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Rough year.
It was a rough year, but oh boy, every year since has been something. Speaking of something,
Yeah. What we got?
Elmo,
Got old Elmo.
Muskrat, the Musk.
Yeah. Apparently he is our king now, and gets to decide by fiat what the House of Representatives is going to vote on.
Yeah.
Because apparently it is a private citizen's duty to use the social media network he owns to whip votes in the House and Senate to prevent the passage of funding the United States government.
Yeah, it looks like we're barreling towards a shutdown again, right before inauguration.
Yeah. He has said that he does not think there should be any legislating done until Inauguration Day.
Yeah, that's the current position, which is funny because apparently in the minds of voters, now, here's the funny thing. This is gonna backfire in a lot of ways, because the minds of voters so far, they seem to be acting as if Trump is already in office.
Yeah.
And they think like he is already in office. And so
He's acting as if he's already in office.
right. And they are very blatantly going to shut down any legislation and the government quite possibly here. And I don't see any incentive for the Democrats to help. Like obviously
No.
like shutting down the government is bad. Like it's dangerous and damaging, but we're about to go into a dangerous and damaging presidency.
The rest of our lives.
Yeah. It's going to have impacts on all of us. So that being said, if they're already going to be seen as owning this,
Make them own it.
make them own it. Yeah.
And I mean, every time the government has shut down for as long as I can remember, it's been the Republicans shutting it down, and they always suffer consequences for it.
Yeah.
They're not long-term consequences. They usually only last until the next election cycle, but they always suffer consequences, and they refuse to ever learn from it.
Yeah. So if they shut this shit down, great, because they're going to have some special elections, and they're going to have the replacements for all of the Trump picks that he's pulled out of the legislature. They're going to need to have special elections. And then there's going to be a midterm. And the government shutting down and like 1 million people being out of work and furloughed and Social Security checks being delayed and things like that are going to have an impact.
Right.
So
It's going to be bad.
Good for them. So we got that because we, of course, have a king now. And President Musk has decided that Vice President Trump which I think that's how we should frame
I
it.
think that's how it should be framed going forward because it's obvious who the one being cuckolded is.
Right. And
Donnie gets the corner chair.
the good news is for everybody that we get to watch is that they're both malignant narcissists who love their egos and have power trips.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, one of the things that I don't know that Musk is aware of is that he could just be kicked out of the country
Right.
at any moment with no notice because of overstaying that visa 20 some odd years ago.
Yeah, U.S. law is really kind of funny and clear that no matter how long ago you got citizenship, if you lied on your citizenship form or you violated immigration laws and you didn't get a hearing on that violation where they have forgiven you, right? Or a pardon or clemency, some official act that has protected that act that you've taken that violated U.S. immigration law, your citizenship status is null and void.
Yeah, you can just be kicked out that day.
It'd be really funny if Trump did it to his own wife.
Yeah,
He could.
yeah, he could.
So
He could do a lot of things.
it's a lot faster and cheaper than divorce, I guess. So
Not that he ever seemed to care about that. And if he kicks her out of the country, he can't bury her on one of his golf courses.
true. I mean, he's actually cared about. Remember his first big ugly divorce way back when.
The one where we found out he kept a copy of Hitler's speeches on his bedside table.
Yes, that
Yeah,
one.
that one.
But all of the focus on that.
I
was on
believe
how-
that was like the first rape allegation too.
It was, yeah.
From
The first public one.
yeah, from Ivana.
Yeah, and he didn't want to give a dime, like and he knew he had to pay, but he just kept fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. He spent more on lawyers than he had to pay her. 'Cause-
Well, he has some principles.
yeah,
That is one of them.
it's
Never pay anyone.
Never pay anyone. It's a shitty
And
principle.
we are
really.
assuming he paid his lawyers.
Yeah, that's true.
He's got a habit of not.
All right. So what else is in the news? We've
Oh,
got?
well, I know one exciting thing. The House Ethics Committee secretly voted in secret to release the full Matt Gaetz report, and I cannot fucking wait.
Oh, I am stoked for this. If
The fact that his defense was to go on Twitter and say that he'd made some mistakes in his 30s and he gave women he dated money as a defense.
right, but I never slept with these women.
I never slept with these women, but I gave some of them money and some of them I weren't dating. Some of the ones I gave money to I was not dating. I
Right.
just gave them money because they asked.
Yeah, I gave any woman who asked me for money, but I gave women I dated money, and but I didn't sleep with any minors, and there's never been a charge. It was bad.
It was bad, and I'm real excited.
It was the kind of Twitter defense that reads as a confession.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, I did the thing.
I'm really excited. I am not confident that the fine people of Florida's first district will not manage to somehow pick someone even worse.
Well, probably they will.
I don't trust those people. You can't trust the Panhandle in general.
You're right. You can't. I mean,
It's a dark and stupid place.
it's Alabama, Florida. It's both things,
But worse.
but right.
It's the worst of both.
It's not good. But the one good thing is it's going to be really hard to find a guy that is more creepy than the dude who had like a sex game about banging other representatives' wives when in the state house.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
A point system for
Yeah.
everyone that you could bang, and whether or not they were lobbyists or other representatives or representatives' wives, and a whole strategic grading system for that.
Yeah.
It is hard to find somebody creepier than that. But we might.
I believe they'll find a way.
I have,
I really believe they'll find a way. I have that much confidence in the people of Florida's first House district.
We have faith in you here on the Grift.
We believe.
We believe in you.
Ooh, what else happened?
So Trump wants to eliminate the debt ceiling.
He wants
because
to eliminate the debt ceiling.
It's going to blow up in around July, is it?
Probably.
Yeah, that's when the next time we're expected to hit
It is
the
a
debt ceiling.
dumb fight we have
It is
all the time.
It's just amazing that, generally speaking, and here's how it's worked for the entirety of my life, is that the debt ceiling starts to approach, And under Republican administrations, the Democrats and the Republicans kind of get together and they just approve it.
Rubber stamp it.
Basically,
every
rubber
single
stamp
time. It's not even a question.
And if the Democrats hold the legislature, they ask for a few more concessions, but otherwise, it's a rubber stamp. Yeah. Okay, and then when a Democrat is in office, every single time, the Republicans, no matter which side, of power they're in the legislature, obstruct the shit out of it. And when they're in the minority, they just filibuster everything. And when they're in the majority, they make it a big fucking mess, and have shut down the government on several occasions. And it's look back at the history of every debt ceiling fight. I can guarantee you will see the same exact pattern, hands down. And so what fascinates me about that is, one, how short American memories are. You, the voter out there, you, talking to you, sorry. Yeah. Stop being idiots, because they do this every fucking time.
Every single time.
And you blame them every time, but for like a month, a year, 2 years. And then after the 2-year cycle is gone and you didn't show up, or they lose at the midterms or whatever, you are like...
It's like it never happened.
Yeah. Stop. These people are the same fucking people. It doesn't change.
They keep getting reelected because you keep reelecting them.
Yeah, and so just because you got rid of like 4 or 5 of the worst of them every time, and the balance of power tipped, doesn't mean... Like, I hate the Democrats. I hate them.
As you should.
But the few times they've had like super majorities throughout the government, at least a few things that I've liked have gotten accomplished. Like, that's... I don't want anybody to have like universal power forever. That's a bad idea.
Right.
But do I want the Republicans to lose power for basically ever until they fix themselves and get their shit together?
Yes.
And so that's what we should be focusing on. The idea that we need to keep this balance to fight, that, well, you got to go from one to the other. I've heard that argument so many times.
Yeah.
Like, if it's Democrats in the White House, you've got to have a Republican. No, you don't.
I know. You need that works fine if you have two parties interested and capable of governing.
Right.
And the Republican Party has decided that it is neither interested nor capable of doing the job of running the government.
And they've been doing that since at least Newt Gingrich.
Yeah, so 30 years.
Yeah. If somebody for 30 years has been doing the same dumb things and showing you who they are, believe them. All right. Other news, because, yeah. So Trump wants to get rid of the debt. Trump wants to get rid of the debt ceiling because he doesn't want to have the fight.
Right.
Which I guess is the one good reason to keep it in. And then we have...
But we also know that the Democrats wouldn't do the fight. So, like,
yeah,
he just really wants to potentially hobble the Republicans when he's not in power someday.
That'd be funny.
And I'm not going to tell him not to do that.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing, is actually it may save the Republicans going forward.
Possibly.
Right? From themselves.
I don't know that anything can save them from themselves.
Fair enough. It's one less thing they'll be blamed for because they can't do it anymore.
It's true.
Right? And that's weird, but I don't like sometimes you got to think about the strategy on top of the good of things, as much as I hate that. All right, so terrorism charges for Luigi.
Interesting choice on the state of New York.
Yeah.
It's fascinating that comparing his charges to people who are not charged with terrorism for killing way more people. The fact that there were no terrorism charges in the January 6th.
Not one.
Storming the Capitol of the United States and attempting to hang the sitting, at that point, vice president because he wouldn't throw the election.
Well,
That's not terrorism.
Not at all. No.
Basically being a pest control guy on the streets of New York, though.
Yeah, I mean, look, all Luigi Mangione did was remove a parasite from society. One of thousands that needs to be removed. And I am not afraid to utilize my First Amendment rights to say that he needs to be removed. Whether or not you do it, that's on you. I am not advocating that anyone out there, do it.
No.
But if you do, you're a hero.
But charging him as a terrorist for what he did would be like arresting a surgeon for removing a tumor
Yeah.
and calling it terrorism
Yeah.
because it scares the other cancer cells.
But see, the other cancer cells have taken over our society.
They have metastasized
Yes.
quite thoroughly.
They're like RFK's brainworm.
So they want to ban the polio vaccine.
They wanna
Speaking of
ban-
RFK,
They want to ban the fucking
fucking polio vaccine. He says that it's caused stomach cancer to skyrocket. That's his excuse. He said, "Well, yeah, it might have cured polio, and people might not be dying of polio, but look at the number of people who get stomach cancer now."
Yeah, these lunatics are going to get you all
He doesn't
killed.
bother to try, even attempt to show even a correlation between the two.
No,
He just asserts
just that.
stomach cancer is more prevalent, therefore we should get rid of the polio vaccine.
Yeah. The real space to watch out for beyond the polio vaccine, which I'm not sure they're going to get rid of. I think it's just crazy talk.
That does feel like crazy talk.
The vaccine that we should be watching out for is HPV. The
Yeah.
Republicans have wanted to target that one for a long time because it allows, for, sexual liberation of women in any way, shape, or form.
I think my favorite was RFK saying that it increases the risk of cervical cancer when it is a vaccine designed explicitly to do the exact opposite.
Yeah, it saves thousands of women every year from cervical cancer. Thousands. And look, here's the thing. Yes, HPV is an STI, and it is very common in the population.
You
like
probably
90%.
have it.
Yeah,
If you've had unprotected sex, there's like an 85% chance.
Yeah. It's something like 80 to 90% of the sexually active population in the United States has HPV.
Yeah.
So
and of that, 90% remains asymptomatic forever. It never does anything. It just hangs out.
Yep. So that being said, you've probably got it. You're probably spreading it around, and you probably don't even know it. So get vaccinated for HPV.
If you can. If you are I think if you're under the age of 45
Yeah.
and you have not already been diagnosed,
Right.
you can still get the vaccine.
And parents out there, get your children vaccinated, like for this. I mean, especially young girls, but also young men.
But yeah, it's available for young men now too. So I think it's a good idea to do it.
Here's the thing: your kids are going to become sexually active, even if they wait for marriage. They're going to be.
Your children are going to fuck. I know you
Right.
don't like to hear that. It makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Too fucking bad. They're gonna do it.
Right.
Pretending they're not gonna do it doesn't do anything but create a situation where they are not prepared to do it responsibly.
Isn't it something like 0.1% of married couples, both parties waited until marriage?
I don't know the stats, but that sounds right.
Like it's ridiculously low. It's one party waits for marriage in sometimes like a fair amount, like something like a couple percent. But
with the possible exception of people I know who I know were raised as very devout evangelicals who may have in the past waited, I don't for sure know of anyone
right,
who waited until marriage.
I know of in my life, my entire life, and I'm in my 40s, like 3 people ever.
There are a couple people I suspect may have, but not intentionally.
Yeah.
Like I have some friends who I'm pretty sure they just didn't manage to make it happen until they got married.
Gotcha. Yeah, I met some. I lived in the Asheville area for a while, and they're evangelical. You run
Yeah.
into. They were nice people, but they waited, and they got married at like 19.
Yeah.
Because
you're gonna.
right, and because you also want to get laid too. Let's be real.
And then you end up getting married just, maybe that's the best way to get your first shitty marriage out of the way.
Yeah, because
You get married to get laid at 19, you're 23, you realize you've made a huge mistake, and you both move on and have happy, healthy lives after that.
and then get thrown out the church.
You have even happier and healthier lives after that.
Also true. But yeah, so get your kids vaccinated for HPV. Even you, the evangelicals out there, which I'm sure none of them listen to us, but if you ever get a hold of our clip, get your fucking kid vaccinated for HPV. It's good for them. They're probably going to have sex, and if they don't have sex before marriage, their partner may have, the person they marry may have.
Yeah.
You don't want to be spreading cervical cancer to your daughters, so don't do it.
It's really easily avoidable.
We got Dominique Pelicot and 50 others found guilty in a rape trial in France.
Oh.
It was a big, mass rape.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that story.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Oh, France.
Yeah, France. Of course,
We love them when they're setting shit on fire, but otherwise.
yeah, that's basically the French. You know, France is great except for the French.
I can't argue.
Right. So, Teamsters?
Teamsters.
Did you, how much have you been?
Haven't heard about that one.
So
Inform me.
So the Teamsters have launched a big ass strike against Amazon. It's the largest strike against Amazon in American history so far.
Good.
This one's going to be fun. At least 7 hubs had a walkout. So let's see how this goes. You know, the Teamsters walking out at 7 different hubs is going to have a big impact on Amazon. They only have a few hubs in each state, and a lot of these are bigger hubs in union states. So it's going to be interesting. And so let's watch that space. Fuck the Chat GPT news because I don't care. Don't use it. It's stupid.
No,
have you been catching lawyers trying to use this thing and
it's becoming a real
It's
problem.
bad.
I will not use ChatGPT.
it's so bad.
I won't do it. The only time I keep up with any AI news is when some horrifying new breakthrough is made
Right?
that will probably end very poorly for everyone.
So the news
Like I heard one escaped its container.
yes.
Another has taught itself how to self-replicate. We found out they lie on purpose.
Yeah.
It's good. It's fine.
We're fine. It's all fine. And it's so. Aside from that, a lot of morons are utilizing ChatGPT for things like writing their legal briefs and even diagnose. There are doctors who are using it to diagnose people, and it's wrong 1/3 of the time. It's bad.
It's really bad.
This is stupid.
You've got college kids who can't read or write because they just use ChatGPT. I've heard teachers, high school teachers in particular, complaining that their students don't know how to do a web search anymore because all they do is ask their ChatGPT app a question and just assume whatever answer ChatGPT gives them is actually correct.
It's so bad.
It's real bad. We're dumb enough without technology helping us be fucking dumber.
I don't want to name names because that would be rude.
Yeah.
But you know who I'm about to talk about.
I have a feeling I know who you're going to
Yeah.
talk about.
So we have this mutual friend acquaintance. I don't know how I would.
I do like the guy,
I like
but
the
holy
guy.
shit, it's a lot.
Yeah, and he was one of those guys that he had these very dude bro-y kind of opinions that were just very full of himself beforehand, but they weren't very well thought out. But he had them, and he would write paragraphs of them, and then he discovered ChatGPT. And as of late, his entire personality has been just consumed.
I did a word count on one of his recent posts about a month ago. 3,400 words
And he
in
wrote,
a Facebook post.
He wrote none of them. He
It
prompted.
was a ChatGPT prompt, and I'm sure it was knowing him, it was probably a very long-winded prompt that went into generating the comment. He was probably very meticulous in writing the prompt.
Yes.
But we ended up with this 3,400 word screed
Yeah.
plus an AI generated image.
Yeah.
And it said nothing.
right.
There was no content. It was
a-
just a lot of words.
Yeah. And this is what it's turning people into. I swear to God, everybody I run into that utilizes these AI fucking regenerative apps to do like writing and work for them and like is really into it is turning their brain into fucking tapioca.
Yeah.
And it's bad. So guys,
and then they can't have real world conversations.
yeah.
You can't sit and have a conversation because they don't have the input from the app to fall back on.
Right. And I used to have lots of conversations with him. The quality has declined since he is.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And so just don't do it.
It's a shame.
Yeah. All right. Positive news. Happy news.
Happy
news for
news.
a couple of nerds like us.
All right.
James Gunn.
Our one true Lord and Savior.
Our one true Lord and Savior. James Gunn. And, you know, I was skeptical. I was very hesitant when I heard they were going to be rebooting Superman
Again.
I'm tired of rebooting the same iconic superheroes over and over and over again, especially you, DC. I don't need their fucking origin story all the time.
It is interesting.
Everybody knows how Batman and Superman came to this fucking world.
It is.
We all know it.
It is interesting that DC in particular, who has gone out of their way to try to maintain the comic universe continuity over the last nearly 100 years.
Yeah.
Regardless of how convoluted and incoherent that means things get, has rebooted their film universe at least twice.
Right. Like, part of the existence of the Watchmen was to help destroy some of their continuity problems and take characters, you know, that they had bought and that came with different properties and kind of clear up some stories and get things and tie up some loose threads and make a whole universe that things went off.
Yeah, and they try to rejigger things every time they do another Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yes. Because there's so many crises.
And a lot of times those are good stories.
They are.
They do them well.
So, that being said, they keep making these, one, terrible movies that are, like, their continuity makes no sense, and two, constantly rebooting iconic characters that we all know the origin stories of.
Well, and one of the problems with the films in particular is they've tried to make every one of their films have the tone of a Batman film.
Yeah.
And one of the things that DC's always been good about is that different comics with different heroes have different tones. They have different art styles. They have different looks. A Superman comic is very different from a Batman comic, and making a Superman movie look and feel like a Batman movie just is depressing.
Right.
And boring.
But now, mind you, I liked Man of Steel.
I was bored to fucking tears by that movie.
Gotcha. You see, and I understand.
And I liked Henry Cavill in the role. I thought he was good casting.
He was very good casting.
But you go back to Superman Returns. I liked Brandon Routh in the role. I thought he was excellent casting. Movie was boring as fuck.
Yeah. Which, again, Spacey was also good. God, fuck you, Kevin Spacey, but he was fun.
He was really good.
Yeah.
But he was, aside from some casting choices, that movie was a slog.
You know, I think the original 80s Christopher Reeve Superman, that movie was actually really kind of slow too, but movies were slower then.
Movies were slower then.
Yeah.
And I like those two movies. I do prefer the Donner cut of Superman 2 to the theatrical version.
Sure.
I don't know how recently you've compared the two, but
It's been a long time.
the theatrical version starts out real strong and becomes slapstick bullshit by the end.
Yeah, it does.
Him ripping his fucking insignia off the fucking super suit and throwing it like a goddamn net at...
Right.
God, it was bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
That was fucking bad.
Superman 2 is not my favorite. I'm not going to lie. Superman 1, I liked. Christopher first.
But when I heard like the hints of the original theme in the new trailer, that John Williams score like reinterpreted,
yes.
did I tear up? You're goddamn right I did.
Yeah, so that is where I was at with that. That's where I was going. So we've got James Gunn, our Lord and Savior, is giving us a new Superman reboot. And it actually looks really good.
Really good. It looks, I like the color grading. People have been complaining about the color grading on Twitter because they say it's too bright, but I like that.
It looks very comic booky.
It looks comic booky.
Superman
comic booky. And I don't know how you avoid looking comic booky if you're going to throw crypto into the mix.
Right, which is, oh, God.
When he fucking whistles,
Yeah.
fucking nearly died.
I was like,
Nearly
what
goddamn
is,
died.
Is he? And then Crypto shows up. I was like, he did that. Oh my God, he did
Yeah.
it. So, if you're not aware, Crypto, the
Superdog.
Superdog is Superman's Kryptonian pet. It's fantastic because we have never gotten that in any film media.
Yeah, not in live action.
Nothing live action. Very little in the cartoon. Like,
They did do a Crypto cartoon in the last few years
yeah,
as a series. I didn't end up watching it, but DC has been better at animation than live action for a long time.
right.
Now, so
I mean, you get him in live action in Smallville briefly, but as more of a one-off story.
like
it's
more
a
of like
one-off
an Easter egg type thing.
Easter egg thing. But yeah, so we get Crypto. Fantastic.
You just look at the list of characters that are shown in the trailer. I think Nick Holt is going to be a good Lex Luthor.
Yes. Yeah.
I like him in general. Fucking Nathan Fillion as the Guy Gardner Green Lantern with that goofy fucking hair.
Yes. Oh God.
Fucking loved it. The
It's-
Hawk Girl.
Yeah. This is going to be it's going to be campy. I can already tell you. It's going to be pretty campy.
Yeah.
But James Gunn does camp well. He does camp very
And
well.
he understands stakes. I mean, it starts out with Superman being just beat to hell,
Yeah.
bleeding.
Yeah.
Those are the stakes the opening shots of the trailer sets up.
Right.
Something or someone has beat the ever-living fuck out of Superman.
Yeah. So that gives us stakes for Superman. Which one of the things I love about Superman is that sometimes everything is low stakes until it's not, and then all of a sudden there's things way stronger than him that he still has to beat, and that's cool. So that's James Gunn, our Lord and Savior, who's going to give us a fun, colorful movie,
And I'm really looking forward to what else he does with the DC film universe going forward. I think we're in for some maybe not great, but definitely good movies. And I think we're in for more consistency than we've had. Because there have been moments where it's like, well, that was good,
right.
and then
As long as Warner Brothers doesn't get too much of their hands on it as a company.
Yeah. There's always the Zaslav
Right.
issue.
And again, they produce some really good things. Again, like Peacemaker.
Peacemaker.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And then they decide they're going to get rid of a bunch of their properties for tax write-offs, and it makes no sense. So, the execs at Warner, don't fuck this up. Don't fuck up the DCU, and if you do, your company's probably going to go under because you're on the edge.
Yeah, if you can't have a successful film universe with James Gunn doing it now going forward, like you can't have one at all.
Right.
You're not going to pull it off successfully if this fails. It's your last shot.
We got a couple more astronauts delayed in space again. NASA is going to have a hard time getting them out because,
Well, they just have to wait for President Musk to be inaugurated, and then he can save them
right.
with SpaceX.
Yeah, so space is hard. I get that. Like, when something goes sideways in space, it's not a little.
I've seen Apollo 13.
Yeah, it's also like we have a bad tendency of not understanding scale. Like on Earth we go up to a mountain range and all of a sudden scale we catch it. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this is big, right? But space is
Incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Our brains were not designed to understand space.
Right.
Speaking of which, I need people to start looking up at the night sky more often and actually paying attention to what's up there. Because holy fucking shit, this drone nonsense is out of goddamn control. I saw an ABC News affiliate. It was ABC News 7. I think that might have been out of LA. I don't know for sure. They spent over a minute having a panic discussion about what they were filming in the sky. What is this thing that we're filming? We don't know. Why will nobody tell? It was fucking Venus.
Yeah.
We've known about Venus since we could look up at the fucking sky. Fucking Homo erectus noticed Venus.
Yeah. So we live between a big international airport, a small international airport,
And a tiny regional airport.
a tiny regional airport, and a large Air Force base.
Yeah.
All of them around here. And a Coast Guard base.
Yeah.
nearby.
Yeah.
And I've got people wondering and worrying about recently seeing helicopters and things in the sky flying through, etc., and they're just freaking out about it, like randomly. And they're like, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "We, do you know where we live?"
Yeah.
Like,
Or
yeah,
How about
I saw that.
How about
Of
Larry?
course I saw that.
How about Larry Hogan sharing panicked video of Orion
Yeah, right. Like
being demanding to, the governor of Maryland? I'm so fucking proud. Demanding to be informed as to what he was seeing in the sky and what the government. It was fucking Orion.
It was Orion.
It was Orion's belt. Look at them. They're in a row. They're in formation. What's happening?
What's happening?
Why am I not being given answers?
Well,
You were given those answers in fucking grade school.
Right. You people are stupid.
I know this because I remember grade school in Maryland. We were taught this shit, and he's way fucking older than I am.
Maybe they didn't teach it when he was in school.
I know they taught it when my dad was in school. My dad is older than him.
Okay, well, look, maybe Larry was just paying attention to the parts about the War of Northern Aggression.
He is a Republican.
He's a Republican.
Ironic.
Yeah,
Ironic.
it is ironic. It is ironic that the Republicans basically became the Democrats of 1870. Like, it's fascinating, but it is what it is. I mean, there's whole books written on it, and conservatives will yell at you all the time.
It didn't
Democrats,
happen.
you that beat were the racists and the slavers and the KKK. I'm like, yeah, they were, but
There
fucking
was no party switch.
read a book.
Fucking read anything,
Yeah,
please.
Richard
I beg
Nixon,
you.
Southern Strategy, also like
Lee Atwater.
Atwater, the Texas Republican Party in the 1950s before Atwater, like
Yeah.
in their strategy of like it started in Texas, like it's like Republicans couldn't win in certain parts of Texas and Democrats couldn't win in certain parts of Texas, and racist Republicans realized that, or racists realized that they could win as Republicans in these specific parts, and that's it was a strategy, and it started in the 50s. Read a fucking book on this, guys.
Read a fucking book.
All right. FDA is going to rule it. Has got a new ruling limiting what can be called healthy. Go check that out. It'll be interesting. I bet because it's under Joe Biden that it's actually going to be a real ruling and not some crazy RFK Jr. bullshit.
Yeah.
So watch for that to be rolled back in about a year.
Interesting movement to push Biden to publish the Equal Rights Amendment since it has actually been ratified by a 38th state.
Has it?
Yeah.
I didn't. How did I miss that?
Because it sort of flew under the radar because it's been so long. It was what, 1980, 81
When
it was proposed.
Yeah.
And it was first made it through the House and the Senate. But yeah, it has been ratified by a 38th state. So all it would take to add it to the United States Constitution would be for Biden to call the National Archives and be like, "Hey, publish it."
Yeah.
Now,
Isn't that supposed to be automatic when it's ratified?
I don't know. You would think.
These things get weird and sticky because the Constitution is clear.
And there's a lot, and there's a lot of debate. Well, it's like, well, it's been so long. The 27th Amendment was proposed 200 years before it was passed.
Right. Like, there's no timeline.
There's no statute of limitations. They say there is. I think they might have tried to impose like a legislative time limit on that one in particular.
Yeah, but the Constitution specifically states that they can't. There's no it once ratified. And I'm still waiting for the original First Amendment that sets the size of the House to get fixed because fuck you, Connecticut.
I want 6,500.
Yeah.
I want 6,500 House members.
Yeah,
I need that.
The original First Amendment was supposed to set the size of the House, and now it was missed by one state. But it turns out that Connecticut actually ratified it when they thought they didn't. What they did was they voted to pause their ratification, to roll back their ratification pending a typo change. But two things: the Constitution doesn't actually allow for that. In fact, case law says that typos on their copy just get reconciled with the rest. So if they had a typo on their copy of the amended bill, but they ratified it, it just retroactively goes to the right wording.
Yeah.
And so that's automatic. And the Constitution doesn't actually allow for states to rescind their ratification. And the case
There's
law,
no do-overs.
right? And the case law around that is actually really clear. We had a civil war
I vaguely remember that being a thing that happened.
Yeah, and
I seem to recall hearing something about that.
right, and many of the states' arguments that they could, secede from the union was that, well, they voted to join it, they can just vote to unjoin it, and no, once you adopt the Constitution of the United States, you're stuck.
No takebacks.
And once you ratify an amendment or a bill, a change to the Constitution or a piece of the Constitution, you're stuck with it. And so Connecticut actually, weirdly enough, passed it 200 years ago. Over.
Just sort of forgot.
And just sort of forgot. And it's been sitting in an archive somewhere. And no court wants to take it up. Every court just wants to shoot like the cases down because it would create a legislative mess because our Congress has 435 members. And this would require them to have 6,500 in the next election.
It's a lot of new districts.
I want it so badly. You want it too.
I feel like at that point, the best thing to probably do would be, instead of redrawing all the maps, have multi-member districts.
Yeah.
Have multiple people representing a single district, not
That could
just
be-
one person.
That could be easily doable.
That would probably be easier than redrawing every congressional map everywhere in the United States.
But it's a mess that the U.S. government doesn't want to take on because they know that it would upend and require them to change basically a huge part of how our electoral system works.
It would also distract them from creating new messes.
Yeah, and
That's really the most important thing at this point, especially going forward into 2025.
right.
Is there anything else interesting? I'm sure something did. Is there anything else worth talking about right now?
Yeah, I mean, California's got a state of emergency because of bird flu, and we're about to have a government that doesn't believe in germ theory. So
I would suggest
good
that
luck.
even though the current flu vaccine isn't specific for the H5N1 bird flu, there probably will be some cross protection.
Yeah, they're
Not a bad idea to get a flu shot this year.
and they're recommending that like Tamiflu, if you're exposed to a flu and you don't know if it's bird flu
Like
or not.
prophylactic?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tamiflu prophylactically can be helpful from helping you not catch it.
This thing has a 50% mortality rate.
Yeah.
You can't begin to comprehend what that would mean if this shit went human to human, which it hasn't yet. As of right now, it's still animal to human transmission only.
But there are some weird ones where we don't know the exact source.
Right.
And
It has been found in raw milk, though.
yeah, raw milk, everybody.
Raw milk, because cows and chickens hang out together a lot.
Yeah. Oh, and it's been found in cows.
And cows.
So
Well, be
and
careful.
pigs. Watch that space.
Yeah.
All right, that's the news. All right, we got our big topic of the day. The thing we were going to talk about. Gonzo's favorite topic.
Not my favorite topic, but it's definitely something that I like to, that I have an opinion on.
He
I
has
have strong opinions on.
he has very strong opinions on these people.
So, the Game Awards happened over the weekend.
They did? Okay. Talk to
And
me.
I don't really have much in the way of opinions on who won what. Like, I didn't play any of the Game of the Year nominees this year.
What were the nominees this year?
It was Shadow of Erdtree, which is a DLC and shouldn't have been nominated.
Oh, yeah. No.
The second half of the Final Fantasy VII remake, which is a remake and shouldn't have been nominated.
Right.
Astrobot, which won, which looks like a fun platformer, but I haven't played it.
Okay.
Black Myth Wukong, which people very much wanted to win, even though it's basically just a Soulsborne with a fresh coat of paint.
Okay.
Might have been something else, I don't know.
Okay.
Like I said, I haven't played any of them.
Me either, actually. Elden Rings, no. I got into it for a little while, and it was too much of a fucking slog. The Final Fantasy VII remake, the first half, I played it for a bit, and
Yeah, I played a little bit.
I was enjoying it, but it didn't have the same appeal as the original.
I'd rather just play Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. It was pretty. It just didn't have the same appeal, and it actually felt slower.
I wasn't crazy about. Well, they added a lot of just bullshit
Yeah, like
filler,
lots of.
and I wasn't crazy about the combat.
Yeah.
Like I liked the elegance and the simplicity of the originals. Straightforward turn-based combat with combos
Yeah.
and fucking special abilities.
At first, my first couple of combats, I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. And I was like, no, it's not. it didn't wow me. Like the visuals of it really wowed me. The enhanced
it looked
story,
pretty.
Like I would watch it as a film for like 12, 20 hours, like because I'm like that. I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
Like but if you cut out all of the like play and just played the story of it, I'd watch that
Right.
hands down.
Yeah.
But yeah, so didn't deserve it. So what else happened?
Well, what else happened is they dropped a lot of trailers and game announcements for upcoming games.
Okay.
And the reactions to what will be some of the biggest games to be released in the coming years were so unfathomably stupid that I genuinely don't even know what to think about humanity anymore.
Okay.
In particular, Witcher 4. They dropped the Witcher 4 teaser. It is a 6.5-minute long, absolutely gorgeous cinematic teaser trailer to introduce the story of the fourth game in the series.
I watched it.
It looks fucking incredible.
I absolutely hands down am going to play this game.
And without a doubt. And people are losing their shit. The stupidest fucking people alive are losing their shit. For two reasons. Ciri is the protagonist, even though that was very obviously set up in the third game as what was going to be happening going forward.
Okay.
If you complete the third game,
I did.
Geralt fucking retires.
Yeah, he does.
He's earned that.
He and Yennefer want to run off to...
Not do this shit anymore.
Right, because they're tired
They're
of doing...
tired. He's like, what, 112
Right.
at that point?
Yeah, they
He's
want to live the
fucking
next
old.
300 years just relaxing
He's
because they're going to
fucking
live
old.
for a long more time, and they just want to relax.
The only logical story progression is that the character you have been training to become a Witcher through a good chunk of the third game would be the main character of the fourth fucking game. And that's what they did because it's the only thing that makes sense.
She's actually part of the first two games too, isn't she?
I never played the first two.
Nobody really did.
I have the first one.
Yeah.
I never got around to playing it.
But from what I've read, like she's an integral part. But beyond that,
It's an integral part of the stories,
yes,
the original
the
stories.
novels that have been out. The last one was out 25 years ago.
was a
20 years
long
ago?
time
Long
ago.
time ago. So she is the core story arc of the entire novel series, and more of the books and 3 times as many pages revolve around her story
Right.
as do Geralt's. Like, hands down.
So they're very upset that they have to. The one, she's the protagonist. 2, they have to play as a girl. And 3, she's not hot enough. She's not hot enough.
I saw
yeah.
saw some of that. Like and look how old she looks. Like it's like, well, she's older.
She's an adult now.
like she
I
wasn't.
forget how old she was in the third game,
It's like a teen.
but like a teenager.
right, like late teens. in
Yeah.
there, right. So you liked how hot she was as a teenager, but now that they made her an adult woman, you're not into it. And again, like Al is known for liking younger women, but
One, like,
they-
be less
they
of a
age.
fucking gooner about it.
Yeah.
Like, you fucking weirdo. Like, you don't have to want to fuck every single character you see in a video game.
No.
Secondly, even if you do want to fuck every single fucking character you want to see in a video game, she's fictional and she's a lesbian, so she doesn't want to fuck you, and she wouldn't even if she were real.
right. These people ruin fucking
Everything they
space.
touch, every space they enter,
Yeah.
they ruin it.
I am sick of them. You know what?
And it's dumb people being led by the disingenuous because there is an entire ecosystem of grifting subhuman dipshits that just milk these fucking idiot incel motherfuckers dry, feeding them rage bait about woke DEI initiatives. They're complaining about the new Naughty Dog game because it's got a female protagonist and they don't want to fuck her either.
Right. It's okay, guys. Like, first off, it doesn't ruin your immersion to play as a girl.
No.
Shut up. Like, you're not. It's not special. It's not magical. You're not immersing into it as this tune out there. If you play as a girl, you play as a girl. If you play as a guy, you play as a guy. It's not an immersive experience. I mean, I could kind of understand that argument if you're playing on a role play server in like WoW or something, right?
Yeah, something where like your own You're interacting with people almost as yourself through a digital avatar.
Right.
But then you also have total customization at that point. You can make
Yeah.
your avatar whatever you want your avatar to be.
Exactly.
So it's not an issue.
Yeah, but it doesn't
Theoretically.
ruin the immersion. Perhaps mildly arguable, like with a game like Baldur's Gate 3, where again, you've got so much role play and so many options for role playing throughout the story. And there's a lot of romancing that is possible within it. Like, I could understand wanting to pick a gender that matches your gender.
I have created, I think, 7 different characters for that game. It has alternated male and female every single time.
And that's awesome. And it's, if you do that, great. But I can see the argument.
I have had 7 wildly different experiences.
I'm sure. Yeah, Baldur's
Just
Gate
in
3.
Act 1.
That's the best part of that game. It's so many different ways to play. Like, and it's so immersive. And that, because it's so versatile and immersive with so many different story arcs, you guys out there and ladies who only want to play as your gender for an immersive experience, those couple of kinds of games are for you.
Yeah.
Everything else, where it's a hack and slash, it's a beat 'em up, it's a shoot 'em up, it's a basic RPG, whether they have long hair, short hair, a dick, no dick, tits, no tits, they're hot, they're not, it doesn't fucking matter. It's a game.
Right. And if a game is immersive, it should be separating you from reality while you play it. You should be so involved in the game world that the real world outside around you doesn't matter. So who cares who you're playing as?
Right.
But instead, we get this obsessive need for every character in every game to be a white dude.
Yeah.
And it's unhealthy.
And you always notice there's always a big wave of calling anything that's not a white man political.
Right.
Like, the default social power structure by itself is innately political. My white male identity is politics.
Yeah.
If you don't,
Everything is politics.
All politics are identity politics. Fuck you if you don't think it is.
Right.
Really. I mean, it's a starting point. It's not all politics, but all your politics are identity politics. They start with your identity. My cis het white male identity is a framework through which I view the world. That's political innately. And anybody who says that it's not is lying to you. And
if they're lying to you, they're probably not lying. They're lying to you for a nefarious reason, almost exclusively.
yes.
It's not the sort of thing you lie about if you don't have an ulterior motive.
So every other identity isn't politics where yours isn't. It's just that you're not used to seeing a representation that's different from you, or you don't want to be.
Right.
You don't want anybody else represented, and that's gross.
And this is new because there have been a lot of games over the last 40 years that I have been gaming,
right?
where the main character was not a white dude. I remember how delighted we all were the very first time we finished Metroid, the original Metroid.
Oh yeah.
This one's been like 7 or 8 years old. Finishing Metroid, and it's like, oh my god, Samus was a girl.
The
all
whole
along,
time.
the whole time, and I didn't know. That's awesome.
You went that game was so good, and I played it for so many hours.
I mean, it invented a genre of game that is still popular today in the Metroidvania.
yeah, and you play through it, hours and hours and hours of your time and days, because back in those days you were playing forever.
Yeah, and you'd had to like hit the fucking pause button and walk away to eat dinner and hope that your fucking
right.
machine didn't accidentally turn off in between and you lose all your fucking progress.
Yep. And back in those days, and then you went through all of that, and bam, you got Samus, the girl.
The girl.
I'm a
It
girl.
was amazing.
Oh my god. Yeah, it was cool.
And everybody was excited about that.
Yeah, nobody cared.
Nobody
was
cared.
Bothered.
Portal. You couldn't make Portal today without people complaining.
Right, and that'd be stupid. And Gamergate, that turn in our social fabric, like, and the fact that it has ripples into our politics
Today.
outside of it today, is offensive.
It's exhausting.
It is. I mean,
But that's why we are where we are politically today.
yeah.
No, there's no. I firmly believe that Gamergate doesn't happen. Trump's not president now. Not going to be president in 2025.
Sadly, you're probably right.
Gamergate is what created the bro podcast ecosystem that he was able to use to eke out a win in this election.
It existed
young males.
before Gamergate. Like, it was growing.
It was growing, but it was not.
It launched
Even
into,
a guy like Rogan was not smart, but he was a reasonable dude
right.
when he started his podcast. He was just a guy talking to his friends for the most part.
Gamergate changed something. It launched this thing into from a kind of under the surface subculture of people who were watching YouTube videos and shit, right? To podcasts, YouTubers, streamers, the large audience that it had. It launched it into the public eye, and it made this toxic bullshit, these fucking the tie-in between fascism and toxic masculinity, like
It's a single overlapping circle.
right. And but that's the thing that brought them together.
Yeah.
Right. And it was gross, and we're stuck with the repercussions of this. And what was it all about? At the end of the day, some ex-journalist dated some gaming journalist dated a game designer. Like, is that really
Right, and it was a I forget the guy's name. A games journalist slept with Zoe Quinn.
okay?
He never reviewed her game.
Right.
Ethics in gaming journalism.
Ethics.
Because her ex-boyfriend spent months just fuming about their breakup on 4chan.
Right.
Writing manifestos about their breakup on 4chan. If you're doing anything on 4chan other than sharing like fucking cat memes in 2008, you're doing something wrong with your life.
Yeah. No.
That's where 4chan began and ended. I Can Has Cheeseburger was like where it peaked and where it should have fucking stayed.
It should have. God, it was so toxic. I went there a bit.
It still is.
Yeah,
I poke my head in every once in a while,
yeah. What I'm saying
just
is,
as a stark reminder of where we're at.
I avoid.
I won't
4chan.
go to poll though.
No.
I will not do that to myself. I will not go to poll.
Oh, it's so bad.
I won't.
I'm gonna again. I know I'm going to because I hate myself, and I do research for this show.
But you have an entire ecosystem of grifters, particularly on YouTube. Guys like Geeks and Gamers,
Yeah.
who just weaponize every single fandom basically against art.
Yeah, it's all right. You can dislike some specific things, say about the pacing and the story of, say, The Acolyte.
Yeah.
Right. Which fair.
It definitely had pacing issues, mostly because it felt like they were ending episodes in the middle of where it didn't make sense. Like
Right.
the beginning and the endings episodes of that series were confusing.
They were, but overall, the show was actually really good. Like
It felt like a movie they cut up into 6 episodes, like just sort of haphazardly.
Yeah, but it ended well, and it started well, right?
And it ended with a lot of promise for some really awesome things to come that
Yes,
we're just not going to get now.
Did, and all of these things were so, like, if you actually pay attention to the Star Wars universe, like, 1, canonical, and 2, the core essence for you Star Wars fans out there who are obsessed with the good guys always winning and this like fantasy of like how great the Jedi are in your heads.
You're boring and you're wrong.
Right. Their failures and their hubris and their political machinations and their mistakes are their downfall every single time.
George Lucas made an entire trilogy of films about that,
Yes, he did.
starting in 1999.
Yep. And the first trilogy he made was a story of overcoming that failure that he then made a trilogy about later.
Right.
The first trilogy in the 70s was about how badly the Jedi had failed. Like, it was
Right.
a post-fascist takeover because the Jedi fucked up. And you've got Ben Kenobi lying to Luke and,
Just the fact that it's only 19 years after the fall of the Jedi, and as far as most of the galaxy is concerned, they're basically a myth.
Right.
They have been wiped from memory.
Yep. And
The entire religion was memory hold, as if it didn't exist.
and Yoda.
In 19 years.
Right. The Yoda, the Grand Master, the greatest of Jedi that ever lived, was centuries old,
Hiding on a swamp planet in disgrace.
and he doesn't want to train the new young Jedi because of it takes Obi-Wan coaxing him. Like, he doesn't want to. Why doesn't he want to? Because his failures caused him to be a disgrace and feel disgraced.
And go into exile.
Yep. So this is the world of Star Wars, right? And you get these asshole incel pieces of shit who see a black woman as the main character in a Star Wars thing, or a woman in a Star Wars thing, like
Or
Rey,
the Korean man.
or a Korean man, and they lose their fucking minds about it, and then they claim it's about the integrity of Star Wars.
They've never cared about Star Wars.
They've never. No. You
Um,
you care about your fanfic of Star Wars, maybe. The idea of Star Wars that you have. in your
and
head.
if your excuse for hating everything since Disney bought the property from Lucas in whatever year it was, I can't remember now, is that the extended universe back in the day did it better. Holy shit, you did not read many of the extended universe novels in particular, because that's some of them are genuinely some of the worst writing ever put to page.
Yes, and it
Just incoherently bad and lore breaking.
lore breaking and adds giant plot holes and like things that they didn't need, and it's stupid stories, and some of them are like don't tie into each other at all. So all of this legend stuff that's out there has these disparate threads that you can't really follow and are contradictory, and Luke does one thing over here, but then he does a thing over here that he says he would never do, which is directly different from this thing over here.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
No.
So yeah, they realized that they made a big mess. They scrapped it. Then they pick up the things that they did like about it, the story threads, and they're like, "We're going to now make that canon."
Right, we're going to work this in a way where it's a little more coherent, less messy. We can ignore the stuff that doesn't work,
Yeah, because
and we can focus on the stuff that does. And we all ended up getting a lot more fucking Darth Plagueis on screen,
yeah,
and you people prevented that from happening because you're bitches.
we were going to get a whole season with Darth Plagueis and have an idea of how he got to the point where he trains Palpatine. And we don't. That's been taken from us because you idiots review bombed this. You're gross. I'm betting that most of you don't wash, and you get none bitches.
You really don't get any bitches.
And
But instead, you do things like create possibly the dumbest thing on the internet. The woke games list on Steam. I have some examples. It is 76 pages long, rating various games as either not woke, slightly woke, or woke, and then explaining why the woke ones are woke.
all right, before I get into this, I want to
Okay.
let the audience know something.
I have a list. I have a list of what I only made it through 46 of the 76 pages before my brain said no.
Okay.
So this is not inclusive, all inclusive.
All right, I just want to warn you. I went so far left that I got my guns back, and I think I'm going to probably, by the time I'm done hearing this, want to find the author of this list, or authors.
That is fair, and you are correct.
Okay.
So we're going to go through some of these. These are some of the games that have been described as woke, and why. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 contains overtly pro-DEI and subtly pro-LGBTQ plus messaging, uses unlabeled presets during character customization, and despite white males being 90% of pilots, the presets are overwhelmingly POC. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, woke.
It's a flight simulator.
This is a twofer. Warhammer 40K, both Darktide and Space Marine 2. Warhammer is woke. Contains overtly pro-LGBTQ messaging. uses body type in place of biological sex during character creation. The ultramarines seen in game are improbably diverse. Features frontline female combatants, including an improbable female authority figure. Warhammer. 2 games. Woke. Here's another 2 for 1. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and Advanced Warfare. Both woke for containing overtly pro-DEI messaging, features an improbably large number of female special operators and female military authority figures. Call of Duty is woke. The Dead Space remaster contains overtly pro-LGBTQ and overtly pro-DEI messaging. Multiple characters have been race swapped. Jacob Temple is now bisexual. The ship's bathrooms are gender neutral, and the ads are more diverse. You're going to like this one. You're going to like this one. God of War Ragnarok is woke because it contains overtly pro-DEI messaging. The NPC Angrboda has been race swapped. No one in Norse mythology is described as having features consistent with sub-Saharan Africans. I don't have specifics on this one, but this is fun. 7 out of 10 of the Leisure Suit Larry games are either woke or slightly woke. Leisure Suit Larry games. The one specific I remember them mentioning is in Leisure Suit Larry 5, the Pursuit of Passionate Patty, which I remember playing in high school. One of their complaints is that's woke because there's a storyline where your character is searching for a green card. And finally, this is the last one before I gave up and I just couldn't anymore.
Okay, give it to me.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It contains overtly pro-DEI messaging, and a female character is shoehorned in despite historical inaccuracy. Now, I will say, this list has gotten a lot of press. It has been mocked a lot, even by people who are on the grifty side of things, but haven't like fully fallen into like this nonsense. And I feel like, honestly, this ridiculous list might be what finally breaks the fever of all this madness.
This is insane.
Because a lot of games that people really love are just called woke for the most incoherent reasons possible.
All right, look. Just having representation of some type, some way, shape, or form representing something other than white men, straight white men, isn't woke. It's just the world. Do you not leave your fucking houses? I'm sure you
well,
like.
I think sometimes a question answers itself.
Right, like, look, go to a goddamn grocery store. Like go to like anywhere, everywhere. Any space where other humans exist.
You went to school, right? Like you've been in buildings with other people.
I went to a school with 7 people, and all of them were white boys.
I mean,
None of us were gay.
I went to a shockingly, overwhelmingly white school in an hilariously, overwhelmingly white town, and I still had Latino classmates and black classmates and Muslim classmates, and holy shit did I have a lot of queer classmates, even though it was the 90s, and it was genuinely dangerous to say that shit back then.
Yeah, I did not have a lot of genuinely queer classmates that I knew about. I had a couple because it was genuinely dangerous to say that.
Yeah.
My school was
big. It helped that they weren't afraid to tell me at the time.
Yeah, they were afraid to tell anyone for the most part.
But I mean, we had a GSA in like 1995.
Yeah.
It might have been one of the first out there.
Right.
I don't know when they first started popping up, but we had one in like 1995 in my shitty rural Maryland, backwards ass, white trash fucking town.
my town being larger may actually have made it worse in some ways, because
Yeah, I could see that.
like
Less personal. You don't know people as well. Like
Right.
I did grow up in a town where everybody knew everybody, so
Yeah.
it was impossible to hide much of anything.
right, and we had a fair amount of like gang violence in my high schools.
We
right?
had fears of gang violence, but absolutely none.
Yeah, no, we actually well, that's because we had gangs larger than your your town's population.
That's fair.
In my town,
That's
right?
fair. I
So-
do remember. I do remember the my principal coming on over the intercom one day, and telling us that we were no longer allowed to wear red or blue bandanas because we were neither Crips nor Bloods. That was the same time he told us we weren't allowed to wear Marilyn Manson T-shirts anymore too.
Oh, that's funny.
I lost half my wardrobe.
I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
You were.
Had to switch to all Cannibal Corpse all the time.
Oh, I bet they loved that.
Sometimes you got to think through your decisions before you make them, because I'll find the loophole and make it worse.
Beautiful. Yeah, no. So, but yeah, this is you exist in the world, and guys, stop thinking of every piece of representation out there as some attack or affront against your identity. It's not. I mean, a lot of this probably does tie into that whole like the fear of losing privilege that's happening among white men, especially like low education
Yeah.
attainment white men.
And then, couple that with genuine, sincere, and valid economic stress. I understand how it snowballs when
Right.
it becomes a thing. I get how you end up in that place where you think this is reasonable.
Yeah.
But you need to think it through a little bit more and get to that point where you realize it isn't.
Yeah, and please stop being toxic to like nerddom spaces, fandom spaces. Like the people who are out there going, when did Star Trek get woke? they missed
Yeah. And
a lot.
a lot. Like, I mean, I'm sure we both know deeply conservative Star Trek fans.
We do, yeah, I do.
And I don't know how that's possible. I do not know what message they get from Star Trek.
No, I'm confused to be honest, but they exist.
They exist.
But some of them are the ones that are complaining that, not about the plot issues of, say, Discovery, but like, the wokeness of it,
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, no, stop. Like, this world is a different world from ours, everybody. It's, one, it's a fictional one.
And it's
two, it's a future where we have...
historically, since day one, Star Trek has been possibly the most diverse show on television. Whenever it was airing,
Right.
whatever Star Trek was on TV at that time was almost inevitably going to be the most diverse cast of characters on television at that time.
Remember that first interracial kiss?
I do.
Yep. Thank you, Star Trek.
A lot of stations in the South refused to show that episode
They did.
for a long, long time, even in reruns.
Yep. But that's what we get from Star Trek. Every iteration of it, and every iteration of it is trying to show us a better world where we're more in touch with our feelings and ideas about inclusion and tolerance and freedom and individual liberty and peaceful cohabitation. Every single iteration. I had a good friend, and now he is not anti-woke, he's not conservative, but he did serve in the Army, and he had this like, well, the one thing I don't like about Discovery is that they're so in touch with their emotions, and they'd have these like freakouts and panics and like talk through their things and like their feelings, but they'd be in conflict. I'm like, well, yeah, but imagine it's a different world from ours. That one, like, you loved The Next Generation, right? And I was like, yeah. I was like, the ship's counselor was on the bridge half the time,
Sitting next to the captain.
right? Like, so the main purpose is to actually keep everybody fucking calm. Like, obviously, clearly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they didn't focus on that for us all the time, but apparently there was a ship's counselor on the bridge sitting next to the captain, like 25% of the show.
Yeah,
Right.
and yeah, also Next Generation for an almost exclusively episodic series where the events of one episode didn't really carry over to the next.
Right.
One of the few through lines we got was Picard's mental trauma of being assimilated by the Borg and becoming Locutus.
Yes, we
And
did.
then being extracted from the Borg Collective, because that was a second trauma.
Yep. And so,
That and the fucking flute.
right, the fucking flute, and you know, and the Q story like about the judging humanity based on our
History.
and whether or not we could be a better species. Like that's the beginning and end through lines of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
First and last episode.
Yep. And so then we get to the future ones, and it's about us now taking where we're moving in our society, and that's what it does. Is as a piece of art takes where we're heading in society and the improvements of society and extrapolates a future from that to show us what we could achieve. And if you're seeing that and going, oh, I hate that idea, it's like, come on, give it a rest.
Yeah.
You know? All right.
I think that's all I got to say about that.
Well, I'm glad you could rant.
I like it.
It was a
I
good-
like to get it out sometimes.
This is your therapy, sir.
And everybody gets to participate.
Oh, welcome to our therapy session.
All right, you know what time it is.
Is it recommendation
It's
time?
recommendation time.
Hell yeah. All right. My recommendation this week, it's going to be a really simple one. It's a short read. It has been made into a movie that adapted it not terribly well, but it was, a blockbuster mega star.
It's been adapted at least 3 times.
It has, yes. And none of
With
them...
varying levels of success. I feel like every single one of them got part of the story right.
Yes. Yeah, that is
But
true.
none of them really captured the whole.
Right. And we're getting a sequel for some reason.
A sequel based on the ending that they didn't use for the theatrical version that was closer to the ending of the book.
Right.
I don't know.
I-
I'm very confused. I think they should have just made the fucking book into a movie again.
Yeah, that would have been a great idea. So, I Am Legend. And the reason I'm recommending it is actually because, one, it's kind of a fun, horror, action-y sci-fi book, right?
Yeah.
It's a fun little read. It's a short one. But the plot is really interesting because it's supposed to make you question yourself and the motivations of the main character, and your perspective of things, of who is and is not the villain. And, that's the title really says it all, which is one of the problems I have with the adaptations, and particularly the one by name, because it didn't capture that. The title of I Am Legend is kind of the giveaway. It's the essence.
Yeah, it's
of
the
the
gut
plot.
punch at the end.
Yes, the gut punch at the end. And so read it, you'll enjoy it. Trust me.
All right, my recommendation this week is also a novel, so it's longer than we've been recommending.
Okay.
And it has also been adapted into a movie, although only once, and I think far more successfully
Okay.
than any of the 3 versions of I Am Legend. And that is the absolute classic, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas
Oh. Okay.
by Hunter S. Thompson.
Okay.
This is a book that is a fast enough read that you can read the entirety of the novel in the length of time it will take you to watch the movie.
All right.
This is a book that has some of the best turns of phrase and uses of the English language that have been put to paper, possibly in the history of the language. Like, it is beautifully written. It is angry. It is funny. It is bitter. It is an indictment of everything wrong with this country and a celebration of everything that we could and should be all at once.
That Hunter S. Thompson was good at that.
He was really good at that. I'm not surprised that he went out the way he went out, especially especially in the wake of old George H.W.
Yeah.
or George W. getting reelected in 2004.
Yeah.
Because he did what he did 2 days before my birthday that year, February 20th,
Yeah.
2004.
It was.
Dark day.
It was. But Hunter S. Thompson is great.
I mean, really read anything he wrote, but Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's just fun. You will enjoy reading it. You will have a good time reading it. You will. It's invigorating.
Right. And you will want a suitcase full of drugs.
You will. Fair.
Yeah. By the time you're done reading
By the time you're done reading it, you will want a convertible and a suitcase full of drugs.
Yeah.
And some real tapes of Rolling Stones tunes.
Excellent. Well, I have a convertible.
You do. I'm pretty sure we could make a suitcase full of drugs happen.
Let's do this.
We probably should.
Yeah.
If we ever take the show on the road.
Suitcase full of drugs.
Suitcase full of
So,
drugs.
dear
A very special episode.
Dear federal law enforcement agencies that may be paying attention, we are not serious.
Not at all. We would never.
We would absolutely never.
We would never travel state to state with a suitcase full of drugs.
We would not do this.
No.
But we're
We will not cross state lines with drugs.
absolutely not. This has been the Grift. Give us all your fucking money.
We need it for the drugs.
We need it for the drugs. Give us your money.